Well, hello and welcome everyone. This is Rashmi from Designhill. Welcome back to yet another session powered by Designhill. And today we are going to talk about how to pitch and present your work to find new clients. I hope everyone is doing great, everyone is staying safe and taking necessary precautions, taking care of your friends and families as well. We would love to know where you're joining us from. So if you can hear me, do let us know that in the chat section. We would love to know where all the people are coming from. I see a lot of audience here. 70 people are live right now. So welcome back once again, everyone. Glad to have all of you here. Today's event is brought to you by Designhill, which is the world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of individuals and businesses alike who can source high quality designs and buy unique products created by independent artists through its print on demand marketplace called Print Shop by Designhill. Let me introduce our speaker for the day. We have Thad Coz with us. Thad is an art director at ad agencies and have worked with global brands on national television campaigns. He's a brand mentor and consultant for startups for unlocking potential. Thad has led brand strategy for the World Bank of SEDRIF projects. Adding more to his achievement, he has run 13 campaigns in Times Square in 12 weeks across 30 screens, and he has rebranded People's Vote and People's Vote March, which were the most successful march in UK history. Thank you so much, Thad, for taking out the time from your schedule and joining us. Please go ahead and say a quick hi to the audience.
No, thank you. Always pleased to be here. I'm a big fan of Designhill, and I must say thank you to everyone who has joined in. I always appreciate it, as I'm not the best at self-promotion, so it's really nice to know that you guys are interested to see how I can help you. So yeah, I'm excited for today.
Wonderful. So before we start, everyone, I have a few announcements to make. We will be giving certificates to the attendees, so make sure you stick to the session till the end so that you can be eligible to get the certificate. Also, you can take the screenshot of this event and post it on your Instagram story and tag Designer DH and Mr. Thad Cox. The social media handles of Designhill and Thad will be in the chat section. My friend Robin is there, who is moderating the session today, and he will be sharing all the links and all the social media handles in the chat section. So make sure you take the screenshot and tag both of us, Thad and Designhill, on your Instagram story. And one lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. Also, we will be sharing an exclusive coupon code with everyone at the end of the session, using which you can avail a 15% discount to shop on Print Shop. So Robin will be sharing the link in the end along with the code. So make sure you stick till the end. So those were a few announcements that I had to make. So before we start, let's quickly look at what Designhill is all about. All right, that was a quick video about Print Shop by Designhill. And now we are all set to start the session. One more thing, we will be taking questions in the end of the session. So make sure if you have any question, make sure to put your questions in the question section. And Robin will be rolling out few polls in between to understand how the session is going. And your feedback is critical to us. So make sure you respond to those polls as well. So Thad, we are all set to start. Over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Where's the presentation? Will it just appear, or do I need to just share it?
Yeah, I'll share the same.
Perfect, thank you. So what I'll be talking about today is going to be how it's obviously pitching your work to clients, but also having, I'll be sharing how I actually sort of present my work in various different ways. You can see what that looks like. And I'm going to be sharing with you real pitches that I've produced that have won a work, so you can actually see the real thing, because I think that's probably more helpful. Okay, so what I'll be covering today will be how to research opportunities so you can, pitch to your clients, how to put together a killer pitch, and then I'll be answering questions at the end. The problem that I found, and the reason why I came up with this approach, was that when you're unsure about where work is coming in, and you're not able to kind of predict where you're going to be getting new clients, this is really dangerous, because we often say yes to the clients that come along, and they might not always be the clients we want to work with. And therefore, for me, this was this thing of it started a kind of a loss of control of my business, because when you have to take on board the clients that you're given rather than the clients you choose, it makes it very difficult to basically dictate the direction you want your business to go in. And this lack of control over the future, not only of my business, but my income and everything, was really stressful. So I thought, you know what, if I don't get on top of this, I'm never going to kind of achieve the success I want to achieve. And more importantly, it's going to produce what we'd all consider as a scarcity mindset, which is where we kind of feel, okay, I have to say yes because I don't know when the next job is coming. And this is a vicious cycle in itself. And what it will end up doing is killing your love for what you love, which is design, branding, photography, whatever that is. Once you start to be in this vicious cycle, it's going to kill what you do. You're going to lose faith in what you do. And the whole reason you wanted to get into this was to kind of pursue a creative career that paid you well and made you feel fulfilled creatively. So we wanted to arrest that. And I wanted to go, okay, what do I need to fix that? And the answer for me was some sort of system that I could fall back on, so that even when I was, there was a quiet period in work, and I was kind of like, what can I be doing to put the building blocks in place to try and turn this around? So I needed to build a system that was easy to sort of build. It would give me control over the direction of the career that I was going in, so I could pick and choose the clients I wanted to work with. And it could be easily replicated. So once I was able to kind of build a process for building pitch decks for clients, I could then replicate that quickly. I can even outsource it to, give to other people to do. So we have this kind of outreach element of our business working in an easy way to do it. And that's kind of exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you today, how I put that together, what that looks like, so you can do the same in your business. So the question I always start with is, to pitch or not to pitch? Why do we bother going through the trouble of pitching for clients when there is a lot of failure? It's not always that rewarding, and there's a lot of hard work that you've got to do up front, with not always a guarantee of landing the work. And for me, the answer came down to that thing I talked about earlier, which is it's much better to choose the direction that you want to go in and have control over the type of clients you want to work with, than it is to have other people dictate that for you. And for me, that kind of deliberate choice over what I want to do with my life and career and the work I want to get hired for is massively important to me, because I kind of believe if I can do that successfully, which I'm done now, but at the time it was kind of, if I can be working with the clients I love working with and getting paid well and developing my expertise, I'm going to end up in a much happier place than I would do if I was at the mercy of the market. So the key thing here is, if you work with your better clients, it's going to get you where you want to get to faster. It's going to raise your profile, and it's going to increase your value perception. All of these are fantastic things that we want to be doing. And the way you do that is basically by going after who you want to work with. So with all these things, there are 10 modules I'm going to run through, and this is exactly how I would do it in my business. So the first thing is, we have to start with a strategy, because if we don't start with a plan, we're going to waste so much time, energy, and money on things that aren't going to work. So the first thing I always start to do, and I recommend with everyone, is to work out, where do you want to end up? Because it's like a boat crossing the ocean. It will eventually reach the other side, but if you don't have a plan of action of how you're going to get there, it's going to take you a long time. And we always want to work out, where do we want to end up? Who are the designers or the agencies we look up to now that we want to emulate in the future? Well, why can't you start by planning that now and setting out the building blocks for going, I want to end up like them, so this is where I want to go. So how does that start? So once we work out where we want to end up, we need to think about, what are the type of clients we want to work with when we get there, and why that matters to us, because this is the stage where we're in control of the whole thing. So if we get to basically determine the criteria regarding who we want to work with, that's going to make the whole process of mapping out that journey far more interesting and fulfilling. And what I'm asking you to do is think about where you want to be in the future and then reverse engineer those steps today to try and work out who are the clients I need to start working with in the near future to take me in a journey to end up working with the clients I want to with in the future. And it is very much, we have to reverse engineer it like Back to the Future. So the reason why I mentioned this here is if you want to specialize in a particular industry, this is the time to do it. Because if you go, well, I really love fashion and I'd love to work with some high-end fashion clients, it kind of starts now because you're going to build your reputation within that industry. And I learned this personally myself when I ended up working with Pete Correale, who's a stand-up comedian in America, who's very successful. I think he's got 2 specials on Amazon and he writes for a lot of high-profile shows. And I was a fan of his podcast and I got to work with him, and I'll share how I did that. But what it made me realize was, having done a really good job at kind of enhancing his branding, all of the people within his industry, namely stand-up comics, I realized that it's really easy for me to now go and pitch to them because I've already got a case study with Pete. But if I don't really want to work with comedians and I want to work with sports brands, having worked with Pete, it doesn't really help me because the case study or the outcome of working with Pete isn't something which is going to resonate with sports brands. So the reason why I say in the beginning is you want to pick and choose a direction that's relevant so that you can sort of plan the building blocks of starting with smaller clients and then gradually, as your reputation builds, going and working with bigger ones, because nobody ends up working with the great clients early on. It's often a long journey of building your reputation and connections within that one industry. So this is the first bit. It's so important to kind of consider, who do I want to work with? Because then you can set out on the direction you want to go, and it starts today. So module 2 is all about preparation. Now, I would always say that the tempting thing is to pitch to who you want to, but if you don't plan out what you want to be saying and you can't find an opportunity to deliver value to those people, you're going to waste your time and theirs. So this is one of the things that I see a lot of people make. They just pitch to people they want to work with without considering the value exchange. So the first bit here is we need to develop like a process of pitching before we get even onto that, to be honest, that is repeatable, and that once we've done it once, we can kind of write down that and map it out and possibly hand it over. And generally, if you want your pitch to be heard or received in any way positively, you're going to have to find the sweet spot between what they need, and it's always about their needs first, and what you offer. Because if it doesn't align, if they don't need it or what you offer isn't relevant and you can't get the timing right, then your pitch is not going to be wanted. And you're going to do all this work trying to pitch to someone and it's not going to work. So we have to balance this thing of looking for an opportunity to help rather than being opportunistic and trying to force our agenda on other people. So the big question we always have to ask is, how can you help them? You know, where can I deliver value and help them first so that they're going to be at least receptive to hearing to what I want to say? And these are big ways that you can actually help them. So when it comes to kind of thinking about what you do, these are the things to start thinking about. So you can raise their value perception so they can increase their prices. So you might be able to give them new photography or a rebrand or a better functioning website that is going to make the customers who interact with them or the customers they are aiming for, it's going to appeal to them. And that in turn will allow them to increase their prices. And the second point, attract new customers. As well as that, you've also got increased awareness. So if you work in marketing or social media or PR, this is where you could stand out and you can come in and go, we've got a really good way of reaching a new audience for you. We've done it with this client. We think this would be advantageous, whatever that might be. And then on the flip side, if you don't think you can kind of add any kind of financial benefit to their business, what you can do is try and improve their business through efficiency. So this might be implementing systems and processes, or building apps, or sharing software. You can also help them save costs by, finding different suppliers, finding different ways of doing these things. And then the big one is, how do you help them retain the best staff they've got? So this could be culture building, staff incentives, days out. All of these kind of things are all areas that any business is going to be receptive to listening to, because they're never going to be getting it right 100% of the time. So this is always the thing of, if we're looking for areas to add value, this is where I would always start. So who do I want to approach? Well, The next stage is I need to, again, think about the business. And the things I'm going to be looking for is what industry are they in? I've got to be passionate about that business. What size of business is it? So how many people are there? Because I might want to say, well, I want to approach businesses that are under 10 people, because that way I can have a meaningful impact. And I suspect if they've got over 50 people, they've probably got a professional agency. So being aware of the size of the business that you can actually add value to is massively important, simply because it's going to save your time. The next is turnover, because if you can calculate or estimate based on how many staff they have, what their turnover might be, and you can go to, in the UK, you can go to Companies House, and there's other ways of estimating this, but the point being is they want to have enough money that when they're working with you, that they can afford what you are offering. Because there's no point if they're not making much money and you're pitching a rebrand, even if they might want to, they haven't got the money to do it. So that's what we also have to consider, is, are they making enough money as a business? Where is their location? So do you go globally and international, or do you go locally because you want to help your local community? And the main thing is you have to be passionate about them. So you have to care about wanting to help them improve their business. How can they help you? Now, we've talked about ways we can help them and things we can consider, but on the flip side, they've got to be helping you as well. This is a two-way street, and we all know the value of working for sort of celebrity or high-profile clients, and that does rub off on us and does help as well. So you need to be thinking about how their reputation can enhance your reputation, how they might know people that you want to get to know so that they can, introduce you, and that might be why you do it. It could just be that you think, well, they're not the most exciting, but it's a very lucrative area and I think I can make a lot of money. That might be what you want. Or it might be just simply a sense of pride that there's someone, that could be a sports team that you've supported all your life, or a brand you've always been fond of, whatever it might be. You just might enjoy working with them. So this is always the thing of, you've got to be excited and you've got to get something out of it as well. Because you never know, that might find that you pitch and there's a trial period where they go, okay, well, let's give it 12 weeks or a month of testing you out to see what you can do, or we'll do a project for free to test us out. And if you're not getting anything out of that free project in any way, then it's probably not worth starting. What do they need? So this is, again, with the strategy, it's really simple. We need to work out, how can we help? Who are we going after? Why can they help us? But what do they need? And this comes down to sort of opportunities to sell our services in effect to them more directly. So we know that, say, they might want to get more customers, or they might want to retain their talent. We're looking now for a service that we can provide that they actually need, because there's no point, again, if they've just had loads of photography done, they're not going to pay for someone else to come and reshoot all the photos they've had done, even if they love what we do. So we need to probably look at, okay, could they consider having a rebrand? Maybe their site, there's problems there, it doesn't convert very well. Maybe it looks bad on a mobile phone. Maybe their copy could be improved. Maybe their photography could elevate their market perception. Maybe they need help with their social media marketing, because it's not very good, or they want to break into a new market. These are real business things that they could actually do that you can help with. But I put it in here just as a way of saying, pause and go, look, if they've just done one of these things, don't go in pitching that. You're wasting everyone's time. And I'm really concerned about your time first and foremost, not necessarily the clients in this presentation. Who do we need to reach? Now, like with anything, if we're going to be sending our pitch in, we need to send it in to the person that's going to be the decision maker. So when you're looking at the company and you're, say, looking on LinkedIn or their website, you need to understand, is it a case of, if the founder is still involved and I need to pitch to the founder, or is it a certain person who sits below them who actually has all the power? Now, with all these things, and I'll tell you a brief story. When I was trying to get a job in Saatchi & Saatchi, me and my friend, the copywriter, we were trying to get a job there, and we would go along frequently, and it would be very difficult to actually get a meeting with the boss because he was so busy. But what we realized was that his receptionist was lovely. She was called Linda, and we would turn up and patiently wait, and he wouldn't see us. And in the end, it was the thing of, Linda had seen us for, I think, the fourth time, and said, has he not seen you guys yet? And we said, no, we keep waiting, but he has to keep cancelling. And she went into his office and said, you need to see these guys. They've been waiting patiently, please. And because it came from Linda, the gatekeeper, she got us in. So when we got the placement there, we were able to give her flowers and chocolates and say thank you. And that's the thing of knowing the person who is the decision maker is crucial, but also knowing how the business operates is also crucial, because if you find that the founder is so high up, but actually there are 3 people on the level below, I can send 3 presentations to them and then to him. And so within the company, when different people are talking about the same presentation, it's a lot more easy to convince them. So I just wanted to make that point. So if we could go back to the presentation. Perfect, thank you. So yeah, like I said, knowing who the person of power is or who the gatekeeper is can make a big difference, because if you can't get past the gatekeeper, they'll never see your proposal. So finding ways to bribe or butter up the gatekeeper is always a good tip. So now we move on to module 3, which is doing research. We've already looked at ways that we can deliver value, and then we're going to research sort of trying to get the right fit. Now, I must say, all of this for a lot of people will feel like a lot of work and a lot of consideration already. And there'll be people in the group who'll be like, I just want to get on and pitch. Why do I have to go through all this stuff when I believe it's a numbers game and, my work is good enough? What I'm adhering and saying this is so important is that having set up this system first time around and then run it a couple of times, you won't need to do it again. And you'll actually spot opportunities when you're not even looking. So we will get on to how the proposal is structured, but bear with me, because this is what makes the difference. And having done pitches cold and spent a lot of time and money on them, only to be told, no, we love it, but we're not going to do it right now, we've just done it, you feel properly stupid and you're just frustrated. So like I said, this is all a lot of work up front, but I promise you this is what works for me. So the research phase is we need to go and actually look at the person. So we've managed to work out this is what they kind of need, or ways I can help. I know who in the company I'm going to approach. They're big enough, they're in the right industry, they got money. This is what I want to go after. So I'm going to look at for clues or chinks in the armor, the way I can get in and try and pitch my work. So the first thing is to look at their website. And what we're going to look at is the quality of the copy, the quality of the photos, the layout, the logo quality, where are the calls to action, is the content interesting, how does it work on a mobile, and are there any broken links? Because by doing something like this, it's a very easy way of saying, oh, by the way, I noticed that this link doesn't work, or have you thought about doing that? Or I would love to have a look at maybe taking some more photos for you. Whatever it is, these are things that they might not have noticed that you can come in and fix. And this is how I won Pete Correale, was because of I approached him about his website because it didn't work very well on a mobile phone. So I was able to find an in that was relevant, and that's what got me the job. So the first thing is have a look at their website, break it down, see where there's opportunities. Next is their social media. So again, what we're looking for is how often are they posting? What is the quality like of that post? What are the metrics? And maybe they're not really getting any engagement, or they don't seem to have a strategy because they post a bit, then stop a bit. Maybe they don't have a presence on LinkedIn and they should do, or maybe their Twitter profile is boring and they don't reply to anyone. The other thing is, maybe they don't have anything on YouTube and you create video content, so there might be an in there, or you're seeing the same content across all the platforms just put out by some sort of scheduling app. The point being is, if you can find an opportunity because they're neglecting their social media presence in some way, that might be a good in for you. And with all these things, we just need an excuse to get in, prove how good enough we are, earn that trust and start working together. And then we can always come back and find more ways to add value and really kind of make this into a long-term thing. Next could be their industry. So you can do a simple analysis of their industry by just doing an XY grid, and you can kind of plot on one axis, it will always be money, so the cost of the sales. And then on the other axis, it will usually be like speed or efficiency or whatever, or how bespoke it is. But by plotting out where they sit in their market, what you can then do is work out what is their target market interested in? What about their reputation within their industry? Where do their rivals sit? Are there any emerging brands that could be a threat to them that they've not really thought about? Where are the opportunities? Where's the overcrowding? Where's the white space? And what new markets could they break into? So if I think at the moment, I think of, say, something like Clubhouse, which is emerging. I'm thinking not many brands are probably on Clubhouse, or they're that good at Clubhouse. So if I was an audio, like a podcast producer, or I was into Clubhouse, that would be kind of my pitch, would be, I can reserve you a name on Clubhouse and I can help getting you started on all of that. And I think based on my experience, it could lead to some really good conversations and brand awareness and potentially sales. That might be your angle of how you go in there. But it's the thing of seeing what their rivals are doing and seeing if you can help them be first to market is always a great way in. How do we find the target? How do we find who we're going to be going after? So again, like I've said before, we're going to look at the positions of the company. We're going to go on LinkedIn. We're going to go on their website. We're going to find ways of reaching them. We're going to try and understand who is the person that is the decision maker that we need to be talking to. Who do they respect? Who are the gatekeepers? And then we just need to pay a little bit of attention to their social media so we can understand what they're passionate about. Now, the second bit, which obviously is like the demographics, psychographics, and passions, by that I mean the value of that is if there is something you can bundle in with the presentation in the form of a gift, some would call it a bribe, but certainly if there is a thing of you can say, would you mind, say, let's say I send a presentation with like a Chelsea shirt, like a classic Chelsea shirt that I know the boss loves, and I put on a Dropbox link, like a classic football match, because I've read on Twitter this was his like favorite ever Chelsea match from 1997, and I'm like, would you mind looking at my proposal? I thought the shirt might be a nice thing to wear while you're reading the proposal. Whatever that might be, there are loads of examples of how playing to someone's passions and what they love can really make a difference in like finding commonality. And look, they know the deal. They know it's a bribe. But I tell you what, there's a company which I've mentioned here who do these, they do printing, and it's like you can print hardback books. Every time you print an order, they send a little bag of Haribo. Now that plays a role in whether I choose to order from them or not. And it's a small bribe, and I don't mind being bribed. I like the Haribo, it works for me. So anything that you can throw in that might have emotional value to them is certainly going to help. And again, I'll show you some examples. So delivering value, module 4. This is where we need to understand how can we deliver value to them in a really kind of cold and simple way that they're going to understand. So it's always going to be our kind of part of our proposition is how we can deliver value to them. And it's going to be, how can we help them increase revenue? How can we do this? So I would say this is where we get more concrete, where we actually come up with solutions rather than say, you know, I can rebrand you or make your website look nicer. A more concrete solution would be, I can help you develop products and build an e-commerce site for you. I could help you run promotions. I can help you create content around the products you could sell. Now we're going to find how can we help them make money. And the real incentive for doing this is simply because they're going to want to pay for us. So if they know there's going to be an immediate return, they're much more likely to do it. Because if you can help, design, it's like, if you can help them design merchandise that they can sell at an event to attract a new audience, it's a no-brainer. You can also increase awareness. So if you can't, like I said, make the money, you can say, well, I can help with marketing. I can run Facebook ads for you. I know influencers. I can take over your social media. I've got ideas for events you could run. I have contacts in PR, whatever that might be. Now we can get kind of a little bit more specific about how we can really help them. And then ways of increasing efficiency. This is always, what solutions can you provide? Can you provide some sort of education to the workforce? Can you help them outsource so they can scale up what they do? Could you introduce them to someone like Designhill to say, look, I can help you get more design work done because there's this fantastic resource and they'll take care of our design needs and I'll help manage it. That might be what you lead with, but what we're trying to do is find apps, systems, software, places that they might not know about that is going to help streamline their operation. Now, this is it. Now we're putting everything together. We understand how we're going to help them. We've come up with concrete solutions. We've seen chinks in the armor where there are opportunities to help. So we're going to make the first move. Now, before we actually start to build our presentation, this is crucial because we need to actually go into the relationship open-minded and being aware that we might be producing a presentation that might not be wanted or even received or even accepted. But if you always go in with the mindset of I'm going to deliver value more than I want the business, I'm not going to come across as pushy or needy, people appreciate that. So I would always say you've got to get in touch to see if there is an opportunity, because you can do all of this research and it's not really that much. But if you phone up or email them and say, look, I'd really love to talk to someone about this. I've got a great idea for how I could help you. Would you be open if I was to put a proposal together? Would you have the time to look at it? Simple, something as that. Because if they say, look, I have to say we've just spent like a lot of money on a rebrand, we're launching next month, it isn't quite finished yet, so we wouldn't be interested, but thank you. Then you're going to save yourself all this time of building the presentation. And yes, you've done the research, but the value is in the research is in an industry you're passionate about, with a company you're passionate about. So everything you've learned can probably be moved along to another brand in that industry, and you can take the same learnings and experience and knowledge and research and just apply it to them. So I would always say call them, DM or email them. Calling them is the best way because you want to get an answer no matter what. And the real value is here, I need to know that there is an opportunity for pitching my business to them before I bother to make the effort in making the proposal. So with all those bits of communication, it's easy to send an email and hope it gets answered, but that it doesn't have any impact. The value is you have to get a concrete yes or no from someone in a position of authority to agree to look at your proposal. And this is massive because without that, you're going to be wasting your time. So you need an answer before you start. It's either going to be a yes or a no. If they say no, that's okay. You simply just go, it's not a problem. You can follow up regardless, say thank you and keep in touch, because you never know. They might have just redesigned their website with a company and it might not go that well. And you might find 6 months later, they go, look, you mentioned you had something about how we could improve our mobile site. And they might come back to you. But this is all about, again, they're a client you want to work with. And so as I said at the beginning, we want to stay in touch with the type of clients we want to keep working with, because you never know when an opportunity might come in or someone might be hired in a new position and they're looking for someone like you. If they say yes, then of course this is excellent and we can now start to build the proposal. So this is how we build it. So we do all the research on the front end and now we're going to start to put it together. So this is the secret formula for a killer proposal. And this is one that I developed over quite a few years with my business coach to appeal to them logically and kind of emotionally. And the sequence is in a way that really sells your services so that it's kind of, don't get me wrong, if you're doing like bigger jobs, there's going to be quite an intense and quite big bespoke proposal or an RFP. But what this is something which is quite straightforward and almost like a brochure proposal that is going to outline everything that you offer and is going to really help them. So this is how I've used it. It works every time. I've done it with my clients and they've landed a lot of business. And a client actually, we finished it on Friday. She just pitched for 2 jobs and I think she's going to win them. And they're for contracts for, I think they're around £70,000 a year each. So they're not bad, annual contracts for her. And it took us probably about 30 minutes to update her proposals. So forgive my dogs, they get excited about this bit. The first bit is the introduction. So we need to obviously just introduce ourselves and, oh my God, sorry about this. We need to introduce ourselves, say thank you to the people and let them know what to expect. It's very simple, but it's just a common courtesy. You can put them at ease and just go, thank you for sort of, for your time. I'm going to outline what you can expect for us and how we can help you and your business. Something like that, really formal. But again, they just need to outline what they're going to get in the proposal so they understand what they're getting into. You then would outline your thoughts. So you're going to explain here kind of why you love them as their business. Talk about them, make it important. Talk about how you admire them and things you have in common, how you feel the same way about certain things and how you understand them, either from personal experience or, that you just admire them. So this is where you're building rapport in the beginning. You're making them understand that you're not just pitching them cold. You're genuinely a fan and you're enthusiastic about what they do. You need to demonstrate understanding and empathy for the position they're in. So you can kind of go, I understand what it feels like to be this, or, like you, I feel the same about that. It's these kind of empathy statements of understanding what their business is going through is going to build that rapport early on and draw them into the proposal so they're more likely to watch it. Explain that you care about the same things and that you want to help them, and talk about the brands that you admire that you have helped who are similar to them. Because again, what we're doing is we're doing the brand association, the value association. And if you've got the ability to say, like you, we care about this. We've just finished working with X brand and we think that you've got the potential to do the same thing, or we love the way that you do this. This is your kind of buttering them up stage, and you're outlining kind of how you feel about them and their business. Here's a couple of few empathy statements, which I think you could, copy and paste and put in there. But things like, we understand how it feels to, nobody should have to experience like you, we are frustrated by, we care about, you are like. All of these empathy statements, like I said, they build trust and rapport, and you're showing that you understand their position rather than just going in with the cold hard pitch. So now we need to state the problem and the desire. So after we've explained that we understand how they feel, we need to actually articulate the problem as we see it in their business. Because if we're experts in what we do, we're solving a problem and we have to say it. So if we take the Pete Correale example, I would have said the problem is that you are going to be selling tickets and you've got a special coming out on TV, but your website isn't mobile optimized. So anyone who's on social media who wants to buy tickets from you, when they go to your website, they're going to have a nightmare and they're not going to buy them, and that's going to affect your sales. So why do all this promotion and then you drive people to a site that doesn't really work very well? So I want to be honest about where I think there's an opportunity, and then I want to then sow the seed of where I think they could get to. So with the Pete example, you would say, ideally you would have a mobile first website that made it super easy, and it almost became like an e-commerce site, so you can drive all your traffic to it, knowing that you're going to have a really good chance of converting that traffic into ticket sales. So all of that, and you might say, and then if you can capture their information, it might be a really useful tool in future. Whatever, you need to be doing this so you can then create the distance. And the whole point of this is to say, this is the problem. We think this could be the ultimate solution, but it's very much now we're going to show the distance they need to cover, and the person that's going to help them cover that distance is you. So it's like, you are here, you're looking for this, you need this, this, and this, otherwise the consequence will be dire. So it's kind of this thing of, if you didn't address this problem, it could be really negative. So you're trying to not scare them, but like just be honest and realistic, and inject kind of what's the word? Not jeopardy, but it's like I don't know how there's countdown timers. It's this thing of like, you want to make them aware that there's a problem in their business that if left unattended could have consequences which are going to not work in their favor. And what this does is you're kind of going, this is here, this is here. We're going to help you bridge that gap and take you from the current reality, which if left unattended isn't going to work out well, versus where we think you could be. And this is where we state our solution. So this is how we would fix it. So you have to now come across and say, right, this is how we're going to do it. And you explain the problem you solve. Now, a lot of people might go, well, what happens if I do this? If I spec up ideas or I mock them up to try and visualize how I think that they could be. You don't have to by any means. And people get anxious going, what happens if they copy these designs? If they were to copy them, they were always going to try and rip you off. But the reality is that they're more likely to come to you to do it because you've shown the expertise and the understanding. It's much easier to do this. And it's the same as why a plumber would show videos on YouTube on how to fix your plumbing. The videos are there to build trust and show depth of knowledge. And therefore you go, I want that plumber because I like him and clearly he's competent, not to anything else. So don't worry about people stealing your ideas or running with your solution. You'll just come up with more. So this is where you actually commit and you go, look, if we were to do it, this is kind of how we could visualize your business. And then you spell out how you would do it exactly. So this isn't just some random mock-ups. We have a process for delivering this, and this is how we do it. So you explain how you work as a company, what the stages are of your operation, so they can understand that, they feel reassured, they know what to expect. And again, there's this kind of formula that you rely on to ensure quality of outcome. Talk about your process. So we start with a strategy meeting to understand what the problem is. We then do research to validate the idea. We then mock up the idea and we give you a range of options before you pick the one you're happy with. And then we give you a full suite of products and services and collateral that you can then implement however you want. Whatever your process is, this is where you would talk about it. And you would take them through each step so they understand the value of that process and how it helps them. Then you would talk about your team, because if they don't know you that well, you want to make sure there's a group of you involved so they can get to know you, and introduce all the key people that are going to be involved, but more importantly, include relevant expertise. So this is your chance to start talking about who you've worked with, or how long you've been working in this area, or what awards you've won, because now you can do some credibility and you can justify this, our solution, or a taster of our solution, is actually backed up by people who are talented and experienced and they know what they're talking about. So this is where you would include them in a way that's kind of nice to do. It humanizes the whole proposal. Then you would put in your experience as a company or as a freelancer, doesn't really matter, but you're going to show successful case studies of other people you've worked with and testimonials and all that kind of stuff, and any awards you might have won. And the whole point here is you just go, we're solid, we're reliable, we're trustworthy, and we have a good track record. And again, the track record is here because this is where you put in the client testimonials. Now, the value thing with the client testimonials is picking the type of client and what they say about you is very important because it's relevant to that industry. So if you're targeting restaurants, you want to have testimonials from other restaurant owners, because those testimonials will be people they might know and they might look up to, but also it's kind of the things they're going to talk about you are probably going to be industry specific, which are problems that most general people who haven't dug that deep and done any research won't understand. So like I said, make sure the client and the testimony is relevant to their situation so they can have more sort of reassurance that you're going to help them. And then you need to put in an estimated timeline so they can try to work out if they've got time for this. So you might say, look, typically our process is 5 stages. It lasts over 12 weeks, and you would just break down how that all works so they understand. And it's all about the project milestones, less about the actual days. So you're going to say, we do the research, we do the strategy, then the research, then we present ideas, we sign everything off, we present the collateral, you launch on whenever. You're just trying to break down the key sort of overall milestones of the project. Then you include your quote. So this is your price, and if you want to churn this out in a way that's fairly, easy, you would offer them a range of packages so they have a choice. So some people, and it depends on how you work, you can either price on value, which would, you'd need a discovery session to kind of go through it. But generally, I've found that for a kind of easy to repeat process and this kind of proposal, having a range of packages for them to pick from gives them more choice and control of the situation, and you don't have to have a pricing conversation. They will just phone up and go, look, we want to take package B. When can we get started? And then, like I said, put an expiry date on it. So the prices that you're quoting, give them, say, 2 weeks before they expire, because you don't want them to come back to you in 5 years' time and go, oh, you remember that proposal? I'd like to take you up on it now. And it's a case of that's a tricky conversation to have. Next steps is where you would sign off the proposal with kind of what are we doing next, and ideally you'd want to kind of like outline what their options are, as far as you can contact me, you can book a meeting, I can get on the phone. But the whole point is you want to kind of draw a line under this and get an outcome either way and make it easy for them to contact you. So clicking on a link to book a Calendly appointment, or here's my mobile number, make it easy so they can follow up if they're really excited. Now, that's the proposal structure. Here is how the proposal is produced. Now, I would physically send hardback proposals. So here is an example of one I sent to Brendan Schaub, which it wasn't successful. I'll be honest. He was kind of, felt he didn't need personal branding, which is fine. But you can see here, I included local Cornish, it's like fudge and like a selection box, because he's got a very sweet tooth. He loves coffee, so I included local Cornish coffee. And in here were bespoke notebooks, which are all gold embossed, because they're him and his partner Brian Callen are stand-up comedians. They're both creative people, they're both writers. So I was like, well, here's a really cool personalized notebook for you to jot your ideas down in. And this would be everything I would send. So these are the bribes I talked about, and this was the hardback proposal he would receive with everything in it. And what you'll find is, because you're receiving this quite nice book, most people will go, oh my God, this is really high quality and really surprising. And then you've got all these gifts as well. So I think I was probably about 2 years too late with this proposal. But like I said, the sentiment was right, but I didn't get an answer from Brendan in the first place. So I wasted my time on this. But as always, it's not always time wasted, because I'm learning the whole time. This is who I use to print them, called Docs Direct. And they're based in the UK, but I think they will shop they'll ship internationally. But the great thing about them on their website is you can get an instant quote on how much it costs. And there you can see that's the hardback book I use. So generally, you can calculate the cost of producing a hardback book. I think it comes in at about 12 quid. So I don't think that's much, because the feel of it when you're sent it is so like, wow, that the knock-on effect is that that's going to give you more business. So for me, the value, the cost of doing it is far outweighed by the value of actually receiving it. And then there's also the other option of Redbubble or somewhere like that, or even the Designhill print shop, where you can get custom merch printed. And this again is the bribes. So if you've got like a print or a t-shirt you want to include, you can get it made and designed up and then included in the package as the gift. So this might be where fan art's really good, or it's like an in joke where you can, and so like I said, creating this custom artwork that really speaks to them, get it made in advance and then prepare it and then send it all off as like a goodie bag. And like I said, Carmaloon was another place where I got badges and stickers done. I don't know if I've got them here, but I had a load done. And these are great because if you kind of get these done, you can give them away at presentations as well. So I created badges and stickers around principles within the presentation. So choosing gifts, this is the thing. When it comes to choosing the gifts or the bribes, you want to get the head and the heart, and you'll get the soul. So it's got to be something which is logical, emotional, but really resonates with them. And I've got this example here. So when you're pitching, all of these things have to come together. So it has to make sense in their head, logically, that they need it. Their heart, they've got to be wowed and sort of seduced by the gift. And then the wallet side is like they've got to be able to afford it. So if these things all come together and you've timed it right, you've got a really good chance of getting the business. And this is a fantastic quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you've said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this is why we give the experience of the high-end book, of the gift. All of this is the whole thing of when they first experience your brand, they're going to go, wow, they put so much work in. They've even got me a little gift. Wow, this is impressive. So what you're doing is you're leaving a really lasting, positive memory so that when you keep in touch, they're going to remember you. Delivery and follow-up. So crucially, when you're doing this, you need to let them know it's coming, because if they're not expecting it, it might end up in a depot somewhere. So the first thing is, I'm going to be sending a presentation. Will someone be there to receive it? So you know that. Always track it. When I sent Brendan's presentation to California, the tracking wasn't good enough and I couldn't work out whether it arrived. That is so stressful and irritating, because I had to keep messaging his brother on WhatsApp, on Instagram, to say, has it arrived? Has it arrived? It's not a great impression. So track it, make sure it's there so you know when they've received it. And then when you know they've received it, give them a ring. Make sure that someone's seen it. You know, emphasize how important it is so that someone's going to actually look at it. You've got to finish up the job by following up really professionally. And then ask for a meeting. You know, you've got to find a way of, the whole point is, even if they're going to say no or they're not sure, push for a meeting. It's the least they can do, considering all the work you've put in. And quite often you've made such a good impression, when you're able to have that meeting, that's when you can close the deal. And that's obviously winning the project is the outcome, where you've blown them away with the proposal and they go, look, I'd love to work with you. Let's get going. So here's a couple of my examples that I've used in my presentation. And the first one here is, this is a client presentation that we put together. And this is the client I just talked about that was winning £70,000 a year contracts for clients. Now, the reason why it's side by side is this is the template that we use for them. And all we do is, when we pick the different client, we update the cover with a photo from their website. So it feels like a custom project, but the actual structure is the same, is identical nearly every time. And this means she can scale them. So it takes me about 10 minutes to update a proposal for her. She just gives me the client. She gives me the kind of anything to mention, and I'll go to the website, get the photos, go to wherever, Unsplash, get photos, customize it, save it to Dropbox, and then she just sends it off. So this is the whole process thing, is she knows she can be generating, she can be sending out 5 proposals a week to high-end clients that she wants to work with, and hopefully get meetings or sometimes land the job direct. So with this, here's the opening cover. It's all we do is change the cover image. Then we have the introduction. Like I said, this is where you explain what's going to happen. You're going to sort of explain what they can expect. We then go into our thoughts, which is identical pretty much, because again, she's industry specific. So the industry problems they're having are usually universal. She outlines kind of how she loves what they do, but she understands sort of the stress they're under. She then outlines her solution of how she can actually help them. She then goes and talks about her experience and who else she's worked with in that industry. She then offers up her packages. So this is kind of, we have the entry-level package, the enterprise package, and the premium package with all the features are outlined. She puts it all together in a pricing table so they can see at a glance how everything costs. She then follows with testimonials, and these are often testimonials handpicked from people within the same industry or very closely related. So she's got 3 testimonials to outline how brilliant she is, all thinking about different things. And then she finishes with a what happens next. And that's that one. And then we change the back cover again. Now, there are things that you can take in and take out. So she doesn't always include the process, because if it's not relevant, she won't. Sometimes she does. But the point being is with this, because she's in the legal HR world, this allows the person, the recipient, to basically receive a fairly high-end proposal, which is tailored around them, which looks nice, but is also information dense with relevant information. And it's really helpful. And she's able to target quite a high-end market and close a lot of deals with this presentation. So I wanted to include that to show you this is the kind of thing that I've put together for my own clients that works for them. And when we do it, it works for us in the same way, because the whole proposal, basically there's no questions needed at the end of it, because you've explained everything. Now, I wanted to include this because part of the presentation was talking about how do you present your work to clients. So I wanted to give you an example of a proposal that I did, where I did the mock-ups and I tried to explain my design thinking. And typically, if you're doing work, and this is even like this classic one logo concept work, this is how I've always presented it when I wanted to present a finished case study of just, this is the one logo concept and that's it. So this is how I do it. So obviously this is for Cornish coffee. Now, when I was talking to them, my whole point was I wanted to talk about how I felt that if they produced a sort of upmarket artisan version of what they do, they could attract a more kind of discerning market and make more money. So I start with, all the brands that I've worked with in my career. I would then talk about my experience, talking about working with IKEA, McDonald's, Conor McGregor, all that kind of stuff. I would then outline my thoughts, which is like, I love what you're doing, but I think that, you could release an upmarket version of your coffee. And I was kind of like, I think if you did that, you could tap into a whole new market and you could actually charge a lot of money, because the artisan coffee market is really thriving. And then I would go into like, this is how I would rebrand you. So I would show the logo and I would say, right, for me, it has to, look good, but it has to be relevant to what you do. So I would then talk about, this is the logo type. And I would talk about why I picked this typeface to kind of render the logo in. I would break down all the different points. And the whole point of breaking all this down is to relate my design choices back to the proposition at hand and the problem I think that I'm solving. So because, they're Cornish and it's Celtic in origin, I felt like, here you go, look, sophisticated letterforms are subtly Celtic in their construction, relating to the heritage and history of Cornwall where you're based. So this is why I'm making this relevant. And I'm sharing this with you because if you're going to show any work to a client, the way I'm able to sell it in every time is to do this. Because when they see how much thought has gone into the design decision making, and then it's all rooted in actual research and information, it's very hard to deny. I would then talk about their sort of heritage and their kind of steam engine background, and this would be like a mood board of inspiration. And then I was like, this is kind of what I think you could do for your logo. And then I was like, this is how it all works, and there's 2 C's of Cornish coffee and it's being constructed to be harmonious. And then I would include like, well, I'd want to render it with subtle textures to make it feel more rustic. And then I'd do things like this, the mock-up of the design, and show this is how I see the final thing actually looking in your warehouse. And if you were to do it on packaging materials or bags, or like there's a packaging box. So now I'm bringing it all together to show them how I think it would work as a logo. Typography, I talk about my choice of typefaces and why I would pick them and how they're relevant. So how they all come together. So this would be all the typefaces. I would then talk about how when you put them together online or in an article, they would all kind of work to give character and sort of feel. And then I would explain and break this down typographically and sort of why did I pick this kind of handwritten text and what does that do? I then would talk about the colors. I would talk about how I wanted to create kind of rustic colors that were Cornish and then have accented textures and foil. And then I'd bring it all together in these kind of luxury mock-ups to say, this is how I sort of view your artisan range. And then I had an example with their hand roasted range. And again, I'm bringing all the elements together to sort of show this is when you do the packaging, how it would look. And all of these kind of mock-ups didn't take massively long, but for them, it allows them to kind of see my vision for their brand in a way that they're going to go, wow, if they love it, they know they can come to me to get this. So this is where it'd be the final kind of version of where I would take them. And then in the rest of the presentation, you would talk about how long it would take, how you would do it exactly, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So this was how it all finished up as this sort of rustic artisan, rather minimalist packaging. And I wanted to include that because generally, if I'm presenting work to a client, this is how I do it. So I pick relevant mock-ups. I make sure there are loads of notes to explain my thinking. And quite often I will use a Zoom recording to take them through a presentation. So they've got a video to watch of me explaining my thinking, as well as a PDF of the final presentation. So that way, usually I've answered most questions. And that was everything. So there are a lot of slides and I've rattled through, but now I'm here for the Q&A at the end. So if anyone's got any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Thank you so much, Thad. That was quite a detailed presentation and very, very insightful one. I loved everything that you shared, and personally, I learned a lot myself in this session, and I'm sure the attendees would have loved it too. We started with 50 people online, and now we have 97, and I see the response is amazing. You can read the chat, and it's going great. So thank you so much for sharing such insightful information from your experience itself. So we
Cool.
will now it's time to take questions, but before we do that, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill for organizing this session. Stay tuned, everyone. Please put your questions in the questions tab. We will be right back to do Q&A session.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, we are back, and now let's start with the Q&A. Third, I will be, selecting questions with maximum upvotes first. Yeah, and you will see the question on your screen. So let me see. Question is asked by Carolina. It's on your screen. It says, do you recommend pitch to small businesses or big businesses, and why?
So I think it comes back to the first thing, which was who do you want to work with and why, and also being aware of what your competition is. So if you pitch to a smaller business, that they might not have as much revenue, but you might have more creative control and more input, and vice versa. If you pitch to a big business, you're up against probably bigger agencies, but they might have bigger budget, but they might be a bit more scared. So it is definitely the type of client. I would say there is, depending on how big you are, there will be a limit of what you can offer, and where you'll get to a stage where they might need the skills of more people. So there will always be a kind of ceiling that you can hit on. I think that the sweet spot is not necessarily the size of business, but more the attitude of the business founder and their owner. Because if they're entrepreneurial and they kind of want to grow their business, then if you can get in early enough and build that trust to do the photography or the rebrand or whatever it might be, as they grow, so will you grow as well, because they'll book you for every job. So for me, I think it's always down to the founder's attitude and the owner's attitude. And for me, I really like creative freedom to sort of do work I'm passionate about. But like I said, I would always pick someone who's kind of ambitious, who's going to want to open more than one business. Because then once I'm in, I can then usually work on lots of different projects, and as they grow, my reputation and my status will grow. So I would always say maybe start small, so you have that control and less responsibility, and as you improve, be more ambitious, try bigger businesses, but just be aware of why you're doing it. And again, if it's money, then the bigger businesses might suit you, but if it's more about doing work that you're really passionate about, then that is always a concern, because bigger businesses come with more red tape and bureaucracy, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Thad, for answering that. The next question is by Isha. It's again on your screen. It says, reaching out to potential clients can be time consuming, and they might take longer to get back depending upon when they require our services. So meanwhile, what do you suggest can we do to earn some side income?
So I think, so the side income part, I would say that it's always wise to invest in digital assets that you can create yourself, because they amplify your time and they increase in value over time. So by that, I mean recording videos that would help your client is always useful. Using something like Designhill Print Shop to sell merchandise is always useful. Productizing what projects and processes and typefaces and things you've worked on, and creating templates. So if you've done a pitch and you've created a template as part of a job, then that can be sold as a template. That's another digital asset. These are all things which are worth doing for income. The whole point of this pitching thing is that you are working on work anyway, but you want to take control over your future. So you're kind of like, well, I'm going to have to work a little bit harder in my spare time to build this pitching process. So I think it's not that this will replace your income straight away. It's that you should be kind of having income anyway. This is allowing you more control in the direction you're heading. So for me, I would probably say that if you're aware that this is going to be a timely process, I would take on some jobs to save some money. And then say if you need to like a month's worth of income saved, then earn it, save it, and then take a month off and do all this pitching work to build all of this. And then hopefully that you've got a system going. So, and when it comes to clients getting back to you, as I said, it's kind of the main thing that your first stage might be to phone the client and ask if they'd be interested in receiving a proposal, because then you can either decide whether you do the work or not. But like I said, you have to identify clients you want to be working with, that you can help, and they can help you, and then they need, actually there is an opportunity to help. So if you, that's the only research bit, but I would generally say that you need to be hanging out in an industry or with people that you want to work with anyway, and spotting opportunities, and then just get in touch and say, I'd love to help you with this. If I was to put a proposal together, would you be prepared to take 20 minutes just to go through it? And if they're not replying to you or not getting back to you, for me, that's down to being a red flag. And I don't want to work with someone that can't even reply to an email within a couple of days. So again, I know that it's frustrating and it's hard work, but as I said in the beginning, once you learn to do this, you will spot trends and you'll see opportunities. And then that's when you can actually go, I don't need to do all the research because I've come across this new brand and their website is terrible, and I know how I could help, so I'm going to jump on it immediately. I don't need to validate it or find any other ways. But the research is quite simply there to improve your chances of winning the pitch and converting. And you obviously need to validate the need, which it would be to contact them. So that's what I'd say. Contact them early, get validation, then dig down into the research, and then launch your proposal. And if you want to earn extra money, investing your time in creating digital products that don't go off and don't age is always a good thing. And I know that all the people I know who are successful at doing that say their email list is their most important thing. So some way that you could create something that would build your email list, I think generally that would be a good asset to invest your time in.
Thank you so much, Thad, and that's a great point. The next question is around the research itself, the point that you just touched upon. It's on your screen, and it's about the tools that you usually do when you do research. So what tools are you using when you have to sort of research about a company's profile?
I'm just using my brain. I think it's just, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to, I want to be able to judge it as a potential client's point of view. So if it is their social media, I'm going to be using how interesting is it? Can I see that it's on an app? Is their website not really working on my phone? They're quick things to do. And that you're able to, so the balance is that you want to be able to identify something quite clearly that is needed, and it's fairly obvious to you that it's needed without digging too deep. Because if you're getting into kind of analytics and data and all this kind of stuff, and they're not showing up on search, you don't know what the reason is. You know that they're complex issues which are maybe even hard to fix. So for me, I just judge them on how they make me feel as if I was a customer of theirs. So if I'm getting irritated because their website is slow, or I feel that their photography feels a bit cheap and a bit generic, or their logo pixelates, or whatever it might be, or it looks like it's been copied from something else. These are all things that I would then be looking, okay, that's a red flag to me because it's putting me off their brand. So maybe that's something I could lead with. So it is simply that. But again, it's going to be this thing of you're going to find ways of identifying them, which is almost like a checklist. And as I said before, you make it a process, you can outsource it. So you might say to someone, okay, I want you to go to all their social media profiles and see and audit them. I want you to audit their website. I want you to audit all of this, and then we're going to run it through and see if there's anything that stands out to us. But generally, like I said, it should be apparent to you something that is missing, and I think you'll spot it if if you're passionate about what you do. You'll notice it straight away.
All right. So the next question is by Isha, and the question is, somebody who is a beginner in the industry, can they design a pitch by themselves, or do you suggest to take professional help to start with?
So it depends on how new you are. I think it's not fair on the client to be pitching straight away if you don't have experience. I think there's an element of you have to gain enough experience to be able to justify how you can help them. I don't think it's fair to charge the client so that you can learn how to do your job effectively. So the way I would say, if you're really fresh to this thing, then I think offering to do a job for free to gain experience is the way to go. And you have to see this as an investment in you, because you're learning loads of industry experience, which is going to help you stand out. And I believe that 3 really well done projects is all you need, because you'll gain so much industry experience. If they're in the same industry, though, they've got to compound themselves. Plus, you'll get great testimonials, you'll get great case studies, and you'll learn and get to meet who are the influential people within that industry. And what I found is that if you do that to gain the experience, the clients you're working with, because you're doing it for free, are much more patient and much more open with you. And then it's the thing of the challenge we all have is we want to produce work in a way that is kind of almost predictably great, and will actually, when it's seen by more like-minded clients, they go, that's what I want, and they come straight to you. And I found that if you do different types of work for different types of industries, it's such a mix up that even if a great client came to you, all they're really looking for is, I own a restaurant or a hotel, so I want to know that you've done photography for a restaurant or hotel as well. I might love what you've done for other brands, but I'm not quite reassured enough where, like I said, taking on industry specific experience for up to 3 free jobs is going to be amazing, because when you go to the 4th person, then that's when you can like charge good money, because you've got the experience and you've proved you can be successful, and all of your testimonials are relevant and all of your case studies are relevant. So they're going to go, oh, brilliant, you've proved yourself with like people like me. I'm much more open to that. So it's always about get the experience so that you can deliver on the job, because we have to deliver excellence every time. And then I think once you're starting to go in this system and this doing that, then it's about, if I'm enjoying it, let's put together a pitching process so that I can be having this thing where every week I send out a couple of proposals, because it all adds up. If you're sending 10 proposals a week to potentially dream clients, then that's a much better place to be than kind of always swamped with work and then just taking what comes along because you need to pay the bills, because you haven't, you don't want to be in that mindset. So I would say always get the experience, learn to deliver excellence, and then set up a pitching system so you can go after more like-minded clients and get a system going.
Great. The next question is by Charles, and it has got 6 upvotes. And the question is about how much important is it to have a portfolio? It may help me to narrate my process. And also, if you can talk about where should one have a portfolio, is having a website important, or one can use platforms like Dribbble, Behance, Designhill to create one portfolio?
So you obviously need a portfolio because it's the way that someone sees what you do. It's a bit like, does a restaurant need to show its menu? It probably does. The potential clients want to know that you've got experience working on similar types of jobs, and they want to know that you've been able to successfully solve a problem. And a portfolio will do this, and a case study will do it even better, because you get to tell the story of the project. You get to explain how you solved the project, what the problem is you solved, what the outcome is, and how successful you were, and how happy the clients are. So you will always need a portfolio, but again, the portfolio has to be something which is going to be very, very relevant and appealing to the certain type of client and customer you want to attract. So that's where I'd start with. I think, yes, it's good to have a presence, but again, you've got to think about who are the people looking. So I would say that on Dribbble, you're going to get more designers looking than clients looking. So putting your work on there is probably not going to get you many clients. But if you're looking if designers are your clients, then of course it's perfect. So it's always worth working out. I want a presence across places where potential clients are looking. So Instagram is going to be one, because it's very visually led. Your website is going to be another. You probably tick the box of having Dribbble and Behance as well, just to cover it off. But generally, it's the thing of how can I get in front of people who might need what I do and showcase me as an expert. So what might be more effective might be writing a blog article or a column on an industry newsletter with examples of your work in it, and then driving them back to an article on your website or something like that. You've got to remember, how would you feel if you were looking for a certain type of person to do business with? And it's this thing of, you need to probably ask your clients where they hang out, who do they follow, what do they read, and then you need to get in front of them that way. So generally, a portfolio is crucial, but again, tailor it to what your client is looking for, not what you're looking for or your design peers are looking for. And ask yourself, is it worth the trouble of putting my work out there on Dribbble when I don't know if any of my clients even look there? Because it's very tempting and it feels good for the ego to get it upvoted and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to think about what the client wants. And the biggest mistake that I made was I used to put lots of work on Instagram and I would never get many clients from it. And I used to think, well, why am I not getting clients? The work's going up there. And I was talking about colors, typefaces, logo design, and all these kind of artistic design details that clients don't care about. Clients care about what problems of mine do you understand so you can help me fix it. So the sweet spot is always, how can I showcase my work and showcase my talent to make it clear to the client that I can solve their problem? And like I said, if you do illustration, the first thing I would do is I would go to an industry newsletter and offer to illustrate, can I do a load of illustrations in your newsletter? Because my clients they like my illustration style. I know they're going to read it. There's an overlap, and it feels more natural. So yeah, it's just thinking about where does your client pay attention, what are their problems, and then can you communicate that so when they come across you, they go, yeah, I want you to work for me.
Yeah, that was a great point, Thad. I mean, investing our time and effort makes sense when we know where our potential clients are. So that definitely makes a great point. So next question is by Melcom, and the question is on your screen. It says, why not share an example from the internet to show what approach you want to take instead of actually designing the logo and identity at the initial stages of the project when the client is not even sure about hiring you?
Why would I share a mood board or actually do the work, I think is the question, isn't it? So I could show examples from a mood board, or I could actually do the work myself. It can work either way. I personally enjoyed doing the work because it was like I had complete creative control, and I found that it's super easy to do, and it's very easy to put together a mood board which has no emotional connection to the client whatsoever, and it doesn't really demonstrate what you're trying to say. The mood board is what comes before the final execution. So if I'm receiving a presentation and that person has gone to the trouble of showing my business in a whole new way, that's what wows me, not looking at a mood board of ideas. So for me, it's not that a mood board feels lazy. It's just that thing of, I quite like doing it. And my goal is always to go all out to impress the client because I want to win their business. So I've got no problem going to sort of artboard.studio or getting some mock-ups and just making them look great. It doesn't take long to do. Ultimately, you would probably want to revisit the project anyway and do it properly with research and discovery and all of that sort of stuff. But all I'm trying to do is paint a picture. And for me, it always makes the client feel special if you've gone to the trouble to get their business and show them what you want to do instead of just talking about it, which is, and again, I did this with a pitch for a company called Durang, and it was a response to tender. And they would say, look, just tell us what you kind of would do for our business and supply any reference if you think it's relevant. And the other three companies just did a Word document with a few examples of a mood board, and they didn't get it. I went into the presentation with a 42-page case study of I said, well, it was easier for me to show you what I would do with your business than actually talk about it on a boring bit of Word paper. And I indulged myself. I did a design I really liked, and I won the work in the room. And it was just like, well, why would we go anywhere else? We want what that guy's done. We actually love it because he's put all the time and he's read the brief. He understands what we're doing. And now I've saved them a huge amount of time because it's already produced. So for me, it's just the attitude of I want to show, not tell, and I want to work harder to impress them. And I want to stand out by blowing them away with the workload. And I run the risk of them saying no, and I'm wasting my time. But I've generally found that in the creative process, when you're researching, you're learning about new typefaces, new color styles, you're drawing up palettes, you're having ideas for logos. And that transferable learning is retained within me, and I can probably bring that into another project in the future.
All right. So guys, we have limited time, and let me take the last question of the session. We are already 20 minutes ahead of the session, and I understand all of you have learned a lot and would have a lot of questions to ask, but we have limited time. So let me take this last question of the session, and looking at the response, I feel like we will have to do one more session, like second version of this topic as well. So let's plan that out.
Yep.
So let's take one last question here. Let me quickly scroll through. All right. So Kaisi is asking, and I think this question, a lot of people would have this question: how do I justify or pitch my pricing to the clients?
Well, I think with all these things, it's all to do with the value of what you can deliver to the client. And if you've got a track record of doing that, which is backed up by metrics, then it becomes much easier to justify. I think that the way to get around this is to create a meaningful solution, which is going to engage the client emotionally and logically. So it's going to make sense to their business. So it's like, yeah, I get it, but it's also going to help them achieve something which matters to them. And probably if you ask the client, what does success look like for this project? Why is that important to you, for argument's sake? then they're going to be able to tell you more about why having a successful business is important and what that enables them to do and why they feel good about it. If you can be in that position where you can help them fulfill that, then they're going to be more emotionally invested and they'll pay a little bit more. The reason why I put the pricing table as an option is it gives you a range of options to pick from, and the client has more control without you committing to a price. So I think you would justify your price because of your successful track record. So if you've worked with fairly decent clients and you've helped them achieve things, then I think you're more justified in asking a higher price. So it's simply about putting those things in the presentation. So you just have to explain that. It's a case of when I did a campaign for Colourful for NYGG in New York, we sold a sunscreen and our sales were up 400% on the previous year. So statistically, that's what I would say would justify why you'd want to hire me, is because I've proven it. But also emotionally, if I'm going to help you achieve something which is important to you, then that's going to make you more invested as well. So I do think it's a case of you can justify higher prices based on your testimonials, the caliber of clients you've worked with, and how you've successfully helped them. And that's usually going to be linked to some sort of metric to show the kind of, this was them before me, this is my impact, and this is them after. And that's how I would lay it out. There's nothing, it's very easy to do that nowadays in the forms of signups, followers, likes, retweets, whatever it might be. That's how you justify it. But if you haven't communicated the value you can bring to the business well enough, the client isn't going to see the point in paying for it. So it's two things. It's finding clients that have got the money to afford you. It's about your approach having quality and being of a high quality as well. And so that's the same thing as doing the mood board versus mocking it up. If I mock up proper designs, if I present a hardback book, if I give you a gift and I take the time to do all of this and my prices are a little bit more, this would make sense. Versus if I always take the quick and cheap option and then I come in with a big high price, people aren't going to be doing it. You haven't charmed me enough to kind of justify it. You have to make them fall in love with what you're going to do for their business, and then they'll be more inclined to pay more.
Thank you so much, Thad, for the detailed explanation. And Kaisi, I hope you got the answer of your question. All right, everybody, that was the last question of the session. And that brings us to the end of this wonderful session with Thad Coz. This was indeed a value-packed session, although there's a lot more that we could have covered and learned. Unfortunately, we have limited time. But I see you guys enjoyed this session, and so do I. So thank you so much for being a lovely audience. And once again, I would like to thank Thad for taking out the time and sharing such insightful information with all of us. Thank you so much once again.
No problem. I always love it. I'm always happy to be back anytime. So ask the people what they want and I'll come back on. No problem. Wonderful.
I'll get back to you on that. All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events like this lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is about how to build your startup in 30 days. The link of the event will be in the chat section. My team member Robin is sharing all the links there. So make sure you register for this event. And there are a lot more events like this lined up. So you can visit our events page and see the events and register as per your interest. Also, all those people who joined us late here, you will be receiving the recording of this session, and also you can watch this session on our events page and on our YouTube channel. Again, the link will be in the chat section. For all the designers who are listening to this and wish to be a part of thriving design community, visit designhill.com, and also we have launched some cool design challenges which are worth $7,000. Any designer, non-designer can be a part of these challenges, and we have this DIY tool which is called Designer Studio, and that's where one needs to create these designs. So visit designer.com/studio/challenges to know more about all these challenges that we have lined up. Also, last but not the least, you can use the coupon code TPSC15 to avail 15% discount on print shop, which is valid till 3rd of March 2021. So make sure you use this coupon code as well. That was everything that I had to share. Thank you so much, Thad, once again for joining us. Any last thing that you would like to say to the audience?
No, thank you. Great audience, brilliant questions. I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. I'm always happy to help. So I'm a bit crap at social media, but people can always reach out and DM me and I'll happily get back to them.
Wonderful. On that note, I would like to thank everyone for joining us here today. You have been an amazing audience. I love the response. The session was very interactive, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care of yourself, stay safe, and yeah, hope to see you again. Thank you so much. Bye bye, Thad. Bye bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.